everybody. Welcome to this session regarding the methodology work that during AR6 cycle and towards AR7 cycle. So my name is Eduardo Calvo. I am co-chair of the Task Force on Inventory, and now I will give the floor to my fellow co-chair, Kyoto.
Hello everyone, and thank you very much for coming to this event. My name is Kyoto Tanabe, and I'm co-chair of the Task Force on National Greenhouse Gas Inventories. We are very happy to have this side event. This is about methodology work, our work, TFI work during AR6 cycle, and what we will, not we, but what TFI will do in the next IPCC cycle. And that's the topic of this side event. I hope you will enjoy this event. Then I would like to pass microphone to IPCC Secretary Abdallah Moxit to ask for your opening statement, please.
Thank you very much, dear Kyoto, dear Eduardo, dear Sandro, all the TFI member, and also I welcome all of you, ladies and gentlemen. I am honored to join you here today at this event on IPCC methodology work during the AR6 cycle as well, and toward the 7th cycle. Now, next cycle. Just to give you an idea, the cycle is almost around 6 to 7 years. That means, you know, we are looking for already the 7th cycle. But let me start by saying that for more than 30 years, sound science assisted by the IPCC had driven global negotiation and decision-making on climate change. So thanks to the work of TFI, all the countries today are measuring greenhouse gases with standard measure. So we cannot expect more than this. The IPCC first assessment report was integral to the agreement of Framework Convention of Climate Change. Since then, all major milestones of the global process, all achievements by parties to the convention have been directly and profoundly informed by the IPCC products. The products of the Task Force of Inventory, National Greenhouse Gas Inventories, the TFI, have been crucial for the UNFCCC accountability mechanism, common for all parties to be rigorous with standard of reported information. So I just invite you to imagine without the work of TFI, you will have a mess to report on with all the countries for the UNFCCC. Since its establishment by the IPCC in 1998, the TFI continues to develop and refine an internationally agreed methodology and software for the calculation and the reporting of national greenhouse gases. They are working like this beehive. They are not stopping, working non-stop. And this is, I think, excellent for negotiation and for the whole process. In this cycle, TFI has delivered a number of globally important projects and activities. In 2019, the TFI published a refinement to the IPCC guideline for national greenhouse gas inventories covering sectors such as energy, agriculture, forestry, and waste. That means more service-oriented, more segmentation of sectors. Some 280 experts and scientists worked on the 2019 refinement, which aims to provide an updated scientific basis for supporting the preparation and continuous improvement on national greenhouse gas inventories. The refinement is key to enhance transparency and build trust and confidence among the UNFCCC parties on the action they have taken to meet their national climate targets and action defined in the indices under the Paris Agreement. At this COP, on 9 November, at an event with UNFCCC in collaboration with TFI, the TFI launched the latest version of the new generation of the IPCC inventory software. It is the latest science-sound software, user-friendly, and I think all the TFI team here can also provide you all the necessary information how to use it. This is a gargantuan step forward in this field, both in terms of methodology and practice. This manifested the important work the TFI is doing in helping stakeholders tackle climate change by developing user-oriented projects. This year, the TFI held an expert meeting in September in the World Meteorological Organization in Geneva. This meeting brought various stakeholders to discuss the use of atmospheric observations data in emission inventories building on the 2019 refinements. The meeting showcased the importance to continue the conversation between inventory experts and atmospheric scientists. Another important area of work of the TFI includes the emission factor database, an important database on various parameters to be used in calculation of anthropogenic emissions by source and removals by sink of greenhouse gases. And last but not least, I wish to highlight the work of the TFI on development of methodologies of estimation of emission from short-lived climate forces, which has initiated in this cycle, opened the request of the IPCC plenary for an expert meeting, and will continue in the next cycle with a methodology report on these topics. I wish to take this opportunity to thank TFI for all the hard work done and for the commitment to continue in the next cycle with its important tasks related to the inventory software and the high level of cooperation with UNFCCC. Let me, sometimes I am reading, but I want to stop a little bit, because the title of side event is what we are doing now and future. You know, there is a French sentence that said we cannot change the team who is winning. On ne change pas l'équipe qui gagne. This team is gaining. They are like FC Barcelona or Manchester United or Liverpool, or Moroccan team or something like this. Or something, the team of from where our coach here, Jimski, is coming. This is the famous one. They have but yes, we cannot change. But as you noticed in the statement, they already provided a great job, excellent job. I think all the countries are happy about the software, about the methodology, and also UNFCCC are happy because there is a transparent way to measure greenhouse gases. In terms of transparency, it is done. But they are not stopping there. They are looking for the future. And to look for the future, there are two aspects. And this is what they already started. The first, to develop tools. And this is what they presented just in 9 November. And up-to-date user-friendly software. Second thing is to extend the possibility to cover other climate gases, the short climate force. This is an extension. And also to consider not only limitation of this, also to consider all the activity related to greenhouse gases. And this is also, they are implementing the 2019 refinements, which was tailored with targeted new segments on the users. It was segment-oriented, sector-oriented. That means it is not about just technology. It is not about only other greenhouse gases, even short-lived, but also it is solution, sector, segment-oriented. So they were working in six cycle, but they are also thinking for the future cycle. So now, indeed, an enhanced transparency. Now, we at the IPCC recognize very well the great expectation from the government and the NFTC about the work of the TFI on national inventories. Indeed, an enhanced transparency reported by the NFTC parties along with scientific research and finding will inform and provide significant input to the global stocktake, which will hopefully lead to the stronger climate action. Another aspect coming from the expert meeting in Geneva, and it was an intelligent idea coming for TFI, is to work together with atmospheric scientists. Not only this, and this is not here, but also to look for all this new system, satellite, all the mechanism, radar, to have the capacity to measure in detail all the gases. This is something to highlight. And also, once again, I like this team. I like they are really working in cohesion, but they are humble. They are expert, humble, and providing the best tool. But I want also to thank, and this is also from its inception, TFI was hosted by Japan. And I should really turn to thank Japan for hosting this technical support unit and delivering something which is really useful, which is the deliverable is there. I am sure, I am inviting you, just a quick 1 second, to ask yourself, before entering to this side event, if you did, what is the level of information you got. I am sure after this side event, you will have an excellent takeaway of information, not only just information, but how you can use software, how you can also be more armed to measure greenhouse gases. Thank you very much once again, and I'm sorry I took long. I think this is your problem. Anyone inviting me should support me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Abdallah. Thank you for your very kind words to our team. And I think you have already nicely covered all the topic today. but now I would like to invite technical support unit members, head of the TSU, Sandro Federici, and also Basan Suren Jamsranjaf and Pavel Shermanov. They will deliver this presentation on what we have done during AR6 cycle and what will be done in the next cycle.
Thank you, Kyoto. So this is the outline. Indeed, Abdallah already covered. So you are already aware of what we are going to see here. This is about the structure, if somebody doesn't know. The TFI is a separate body from the working group. IPCC is composed by 3 working groups and by the Task Force on National Greenhouse Gas Inventories, which is in Japan. The mission of the TFI is to develop and refine international agreed methodology to estimate the GHG emissions and removals at the national level. And as our IPCC Secretary stressed, this is the basis for transparency under the UNFCCC for mitigation. So all countries shall apply these guidelines in order to be transparent, complete, consistent, accurate, and then comparable. Without using the IPCC guidelines, there is no comparability in the estimates. So, what will be the next cycle? The next cycle will likely start in July with the election of the new co-chairs and the new bureau. IPCC TFI has a separate bureau dedicated to task force is not the usual IPCC bureau, but the co-chairs are part of the IPCC bureau. This is the composition of the IPCC bureau that I'm not going to touch here. The task force bureau is composed by 12 members plus the 2 co-chairs. Each region, each WMO region will be represented with 2 members, including the co-chairs. So this is a compilation of the activities, of the main tools. You see the IPCC guidelines are an evolving body. It's not the first version was published in 1995, then there was a revised version in 1996, then IPCC produced a good practice guidance to complement the IPCC guidelines. And then in 2006, the IPCC guidelines were completely reshaped, rewritten. And this is the current body of guidelines that is applied under the UNFCCC. But then still, from the 2006, IPCC have produced the 2 supplements to the guidelines to integrate areas where there were additional guidance to be provided. One for reporting under the under the Kyoto Protocol, which is okay. This has been the last year, the parties have applied it. And another one just targeting the wetlands. In this cycle, as Abdallah recalled, in 2019 in Kyoto was approved the 2019 refinement. The refinement is not a new guidelines, it's just a refinement of the 2006 guidelines. So need to be used together with the 2006 guidelines, cannot be used in isolation. And the same applies to the wetland supplement that is to be applied together with the guidelines. Parallel to the work, to the methodological work on the guidelines, IPCC TFI has developed 2 important tools. The first started in 2002 is the emission factor database to support the compilation of National Greenhouse Gas Inventories. IPCC already provide default value for each emission factor and for each parameter required. But of course, the IPCC default are usually regional or global. So country may do better by using more refined emission factors. Some of those can be found in the emission factor database that is just, Suren will talk more extensively, which is just a library of values. So those values are not by default IPCC values, okay? Then in 2012 it was launched the IPCC inventory software to support the implementation of the guidelines. And we are going to have here an event on Monday at 4, just dedicated on the software alone, because we are doing a lot of work on development. So this is the software, it's just a layer. There is where you may download the software. We just released a new version, so please use it and come back with any suggestion, also with any, to signal any potential bugs that is there. It's possible because we are doing a marathon of development of the software. The achievement of the IPCC inventory software, it was, as I said, it was launched in 2012. In 2020 there was a version that completed the almost for all the sector tier 1 and tier 2, meaning by using country-specific data instead of the IPCC default for emission factor parameters. Now we released a COP27 version 283, which is complete in terms of all methods and all methods for tier 2 and tier 3, included not only in the IPCC guide but also in its wetland supplement. We are producing a guidebook to support the use of the software. We already have the draft for the energy sector. We do annual expert meeting to collect feedback from the users. The last was done in Roma in July, hosted by FAO, and it was focusing on the affordable energy sector. And we got feedback from participants that tested the use of the software actually. The next one, I guess, will be in the next slide at the end. So what we are going to work now with more intense effort is the interoperability with the UNFCCC. So parties of the UNFCCC may use the IPCC inventory software to prepare the national greenhouse gas inventories. With the interoperability, this inventory, as compiled by the parties, will be saved in a format that can be readily uploaded in the future UNFCCC reporting tool. We are producing the user guidebook for the other sector. We are developing some supporting tool, especially with FAO, the add-ons for land representation. The land representation is one of the most data-intense part of the inventory, and FAO agreed to work with us on 2 add-ons to produce the activity data needed for the land representation. One is based on the sampling approach, the other is wall-to-wall, which is mapping. So one is a kind of survey, and the other is the mapping. We are adding additional functionality, indirect CO2 and 2 emissions. Of course, the AR5 global warming potential, which is now required for the parties. We need to develop approach 2 for key category and uncertainty analysis, but this will take time because the other get priorities. And we are going to test, we are testing the new version of the software, particularly for the HIPPO and waste sector. And the next expert meeting on the users will focus on testing the HIPPO and the waste sectors. We are looking for some organization to cooperate for organizing this workshop. Now I give the floor to Suren for the next slide.
Okay, good afternoon to everyone. So let me start with the 2019 refinement to the 2006 IPCC guidelines, which is one of the major IPCC products produced during its 6th assessment cycle. So 2019 refinement was produced, prepared by over 280 scientists and experts from 47 countries. In development of IPCC guidelines, including 2019 refinement, we have 3 stages of review process, and during this review process, we received more than 10,000 review comments from governments and experts. There were 4 meetings of lead authors. The last meeting was held in 2018 in Rome, Italy. So 2019 refinement provides updated and sound scientific basis for development and continuous improvement of national greenhouse gas inventories. So it updates, supplements, and elaborates the 2006 guidelines and covers all sectors of inventory and also cross-cutting issues. And refinements provided only where the authors identified gaps or out-of-date science. So the structure of the 2019 refinement is the same as the 2006 guidelines. So this 2019 refinement should be used in conjunction with the 2006 guidelines, as Sandra mentioned. 2019 refinement provides a number of updated guidance and new guidance. As I mentioned, it covers all sectors and cross-cutting elements. So for example, for energy sector, the 2019 refinement provides updated guidance on fugitive emissions. For example, updated guidance on fugitive emissions from underground and surface mines and oil and gas systems, and new guidance on fuel transformation. For industrial processes in product use sector, new guidance on hydrogen production and rare earths production, and updated guidance on electronic industry emissions. For food sector, updated guidance on natural disturbances, including new guidance, new guidance on optional approach to disaggregate emissions from natural disturbances disaggregate within the managed land proxy emissions and removal estimates. And also new guidance on flooded lands, including methane emissions from flooded lands. It's a new guidance. For waste sector, we have a new guidance on nitrous oxide emissions from industrial wastewater treatment and updated guidance on solid waste disposal site, incineration, and open burning of waste. So for cross-cutting elements, the refinements provide also several updates and new guidance, including new guidance on National Greenhouse Gas Inventory arrangements, and also elaborated guidance on use of atmospheric observation for verification of National Greenhouse Gas Inventories. So 2019 refinements can be used on the voluntary basis as noted by CMA in Decision 5 CMA 3. So in relation to the use of atmospheric measurement for national greenhouse gas inventories, the TEFI held an expert meeting on the use of atmospheric measurement in greenhouse gas inventories. In September this year in Geneva, Switzerland, the meeting aimed to discuss issues relating to the use of atmospheric observation data and models in verification of national greenhouse gas inventories, building on the guidance provided in the 2019 refinement. Considering that we have the rapid development, advancements in science and technologies of atmospheric measurement, and considering that atmospheric measurement can also support the improvement of national greenhouse gas inventories and support climate policies, etc. So this meeting focused on 4 areas, and CO2 emissions from fuel combustion, fugitive methane emissions, greenhouse gas emissions from Apollo sector, and F-gas emissions. So the meeting was attended by the experts on atmospheric observation, and experts on inverse modeling, and experts on experts of greenhouse gas inventory experts. So key conclusions of this expert meeting. It was agreed and concluded that the atmospheric observation is useful in verification of national greenhouse gas inventories, and the continued dialogue between atmospheric community and inventory experts is critical as the development in science and the technologies in atmospheric observation is advancing rapidly. And however, there are some challenges in the use of atmospheric observation data. For example, some of the challenges are listed here: identification and quantification of anthropogenic component of emissions and removals, attribution of greenhouse gas emissions removals to national greenhouse gas inventory categories, and geographically and temporally graded national greenhouse gas inventories can support the more accurate comparison with the atmospheric observation. However, there is need to determine the appropriate scale gradient, especially and temporally needed. This appropriate scale needs to be determined. So, as Sandra mentioned, one of the tools IPCC TFI developed and maintained is IPCC emission factor database. It is library of emission factors and parameters that can be used for national greenhouse gas inventories. Each data in emission factor database is accompanied by background documentation, and the database contains all default values from IPCC guidelines, data from peer-reviewed journal papers, and other publications such as national reports, national inventory reports submitted under the UNFCCC. So FTB serves also as a communication platform to share data and information among the scientists, researchers, and inventory experts, and the database evolves dynamically through data proposals submitted to FTB from experts, inventory experts and the researchers, and also data collection efforts we are making. For example, we organize expert meetings to collect data for the FTB, and we also do conduct a literature search to identify potential data sources for consideration for inclusion into the FTB. FTB is open to any data proposals, and it is being continuously updated with new data. So all data proposals submitted to FTB are considered by the FTB editorial board, and we organize editorial board meeting annually to discuss, to consider data proposals, and also to discuss how to improve, enhance the FTB. So the latest meeting was held in Rome, Italy in July this year. The meeting, at these meetings, more than 600 data were accepted by editorial board for inclusion into the FTB. So we are planning to release updated version of FTB in early next year. So now I will pass to my colleague, Pavel.
Yeah, and just to show a nice picture from our FDB meeting in Bilbao. So actually this presentation on our IPCC website, so you can download. I will talk about SLCFs. So this is activities that we done this cycle, and we're looking towards the next cycle. Actually, we had one expert meeting in 2005, but it was a long time ago. But let me speak about this cycle particularly. So in 2017, some governments started to propose a work on development of methodologies to estimate short-lived climate forces. And this discussion ended up in decision that TFI needs to have an expert meeting on that. And we need to have this expert meeting together with Working Group 1 to define which species we need to focus, which are more relevant to climate change. And we had this meeting in 2018. So this meeting concluded that science on short-lived climate forces significantly advanced since that expert meeting in 2005. Improved emission inventories on SLCF are necessary to enhance our scientific understanding. And internationally agreed and globally applicable methodologies and emission factors for SLCF emissions inventory are necessary. And our task force in a good position to do such work. The meeting report was published on our website. You also can download and read. And later in the year of 2019, IPCC decided that TFI should develop a new methodology report next cycle and to do all preparatory work this cycle. And this preparatory work should include technical analysis of various methodologies, several experts meetings, and a scoping meeting. But because COVID did a lot of trouble to our work during this cycle, it was decided that the scoping meeting will be held next cycle as well. So first of all, TSU did a great job and analyzed three main methodological frameworks. It's a MAP EEA inventory guidebook, US EPA compilation of emission factors, and UNEP atmospheric brown clouds emission inventory manual. And this technical analysis, we compiled several tables analyzing all various sources, categories, and emissions, and complete list of SLCF categories. And this was the basis for the joint first and second expert meeting. It was held virtually online, and experts discussed complete list of SLCF sources and list of knowledge gaps. So all the outcomes of this report is also published, and with all presentations and tables and so on. Then we didn't have enough sufficient time to discuss various general issues because it was online meeting, it was difficult to have discussions. So all follow-up issues and issues on general issues were forwarded to the third expert meetings. And this expert meeting was focused on definitions, general inventory issues as we have in our volume 1 of 2006 guidelines, like data collection, key category analysis, is it applicable for SLCF as the same methodology as for greenhouse gases or not? Okay. And we discussed this refined category and gaps list in one of the box. And again, before just arriving or even here during this COP, we published a report just recently after receiving comments from participants from that meeting. So yeah, the meeting reports provide all background information and it will inform future scoping process. The scoping process is planned to be next cycle, and we plan to send a call for nomination, letter for nomination of experts, probably early in May. And this letter will go to IPCC focal points. And we welcome all your participations that focal points can nominate you to be a participant of the scoping meeting. And then TFB next cycle will decide who will attend the scoping meeting. I guess we have some technical problems. Yes, and this was the end of SLCF part. There are some other activities that TFI TSU is taking part. It's not only development of the guidelines, which take a main part for us, software and EFDB. We're also collaborating with UNFCCC in providing some methodological help in various workshops and taking part in a global forest observation initiative. And coming towards the AR7 cycle, I will give a back microphone to Sandro.
No, I stand. I prefer. So there are two sets of activities. The first is not expected. It will occur. The panel already decided in this cycle that during the 7th cycle, the new methodology report to estimate short-lived climate forces emissions will be produced by TFI. So this is going to happen, no doubt. On the rest, this is the expectation because the new task force, the new bureau of the task force inventory may propose changes in the activities, additional activities, and anyhow it's up to the panel of the next cycle to decide which of those activities to confirm, to accept or not the new proposal and so on. But anyhow, the expectation based on what happened in this cycle is that we will keep working on the IPCC inventory software in terms of development, but also in terms of maintenance, or support given to the user. Work on the IPCC emission factor database update means that we are keep also improving the structure of the database. And management in this case means that we will keep working on uploading new data, so populating the emission factor database. Organize the expert meeting with the users of the software as well as of the emission factor database to get feedback and to make them more useful. And keep cooperating with the UNFCCC Secretary on the training for the IPCC inventory software as well as on the 2006 IPCC guidelines. Let me stress that we are three, you see, we don't do training activities because it's impossible. We participate to some training activity organized by the UNFCCC. So we thank the UNFCCC to give us this opportunity, otherwise for us it would not be possible. As I said, the work program will be reconsidered, so there could be some changes on this. Now the presentation is done. I guess we may go for some question and answer. We need to leave maybe even 5 minutes before the end because there will be another event just right after us.
Just quick information, because just to highlight that we didn't coordinate with them, and this is another demonstration that all what they are doing is easy to understand, easy to remind. The other thing, I think that TFI is doing so well that even some big teams in the world are very famous, like Manchester and Arsenal. Jim, you are happy with Manchester and Arsenal? They are good ones. So I think this is just to correct what I said. So this is, thank you.
Now the floor is open for questions. We have here.
Thanks very much. Guy Midgley from South Africa. I want to ask whether at some point the full net forcing from afforestation will be built into the guidelines. At the moment, I think the guidelines only count the carbon credits from planting new forests. But we do know that there is a net forcing effect from albedo associated with afforestation that can counteract that. So is that already built in? If not, how do we make sure from the developing world that it is built in? Because it's a really important effect at certain latitudes especially.
The inventories are providing a national estimate. They are not focused on individual projects. So projects will come as part of the national accounting, but they are just a piece of that. Of course, advanced methodologies, tiers that are level of tier 3 would be able to be used for projects, but I will give the floor to our forestry expert, Sandro.
Our guidelines are about emissions of greenhouse gas inventories only, so there are not other effects there. The inventory estimate the budget, the balance of the country in terms of emissions and more, not the impact in terms of temperature or any other side effect. That's I don't expect that will be added, honestly. The panel may decide differently than the panel decide.
I just point out that it's a major shortcoming, but it's fine.
Okay. My name is Jacques Kouazunde. I'm very happy to know that you are going to work on the development of a methodology for SLCP estimation. But by now, there are another organization called CCAC, which is promoting the estimation of SLCP emission at the national level for many countries. For example, we did it in Benin. I'm from Benin. We did it for Benin. And now we are planning to include in our national communication and the biennial update report the estimation of SLCP. For now, what do you have as advice to be provided to us to use for the estimation as methodology? Which methodology can we use now? Is because if I consider IPCC 2006 guideline for precursor or indirect greenhouse gas inventory, no methodology was suggested. How can we do? Which methodology can we be using until the methodology get ready?
You have provided the answer. There is, in 2006 guidelines, there are the ways to report on what is that. Otherwise, countries have used and may use other methodologies, but the issue is that the ones that are provided by the IPCC, if they are endorsed by UNFCCC, become official and they go into the review process. So that's the main difference into applying whatever other methodology and the methodologies that are produced by the IPCC after endorsement by the UNFCCC. I don't know, you want?
Yes, thank you very much for your question. At the expert meeting held in 2018, what was concluded is that one of the conclusions was that there is no globally methodological guidance at that time, and that is necessary. That was the conclusion. Therefore, the IPCC TFI was mandated to produce methodology report on short-lived current forces. So that is the main purpose for of our future work. And as Eduardo said, we don't know yet how it will be used in the UNFCCC arena. It's up to their decision. But anyway, we will not we, but next TFI will try to make a very good quality methodological guidance that can be used by all the countries in the world. That's
Thank you so much. My name is Muhammad Amjad, and I am national expert on GHG inventory preparation. And my question was two questions. First one was already answered, and the second one is we are few more like enhanced transparency framework coming up, and how this software will help in that guidelines. Thank you so much.
Regarding the inventory software, as colleagues have already told, we are going to have a devoted presentation next Monday. So please, you are kindly invited, all of you, to that. And of course, what is this software doing? To put it very simply, this software is now provides the estimations according to the available data, but at this point in time, these estimations were need to be transcripted into the software that is used for reporting by UNFCCC. What we are advancing is a product that will be able to produce an output file that will be readable for the UNFCCC software, and that will avoid any manual, any human transcription errors. that is one of the main advantages. Of course, there are many other things that the colleagues have already mentioned, that there are technical advancements in many areas, but we believe that that we can skip the human error for transcription is a very valuable thing for the future. So,
Yes, my name is Mr. Faka. I'm from DRC. My question is about, you said about you are using the remote sensing observation or the atmospheric observation to estimate the greenhouse gases. And many other agencies already developed some methodology in that way. I'm trying to get the input of those observations with the estimate of the IPCC is going to complement, is going really to improve, because when you say estimate is an estimate, it's not a really ground figure. How to combine these two sources of estimation and how to build capacity to member states don't have facility for the atmospheric observation tool. Thank you.
I believe the key word here, and it was expressed by our colleagues during the presentation, is verification purposes. So we are using these observations not as estimates, and we are not including it as an official part, but as verification. What is telling you, for example, if you identify that in your inventory there is something that is not considered and it's a potential source, and you find it from the atmospheric observation, you can, of course, you need to decide if it has a natural background, if it has other issues that why that is not being considered, but sometimes you will be able, for example, to review the amount of fugitive emissions, to find sources that were not being mapped within the country. So it will help decision makers and the inventory compilers to be getting a reassurance that their work is providing the high quality standards that UNFCCC is expecting from them. I don't know if there are any other questions.
Hello, my name is Ersin. I am working Turkish Standard Institution. I am a greenhouse gas verifier. I have two questions. One is, as we know, we use IPCC emission factors. For example, we multiply with activity data and find an emission number. This is a way. And this is also another way, for example, continuously monitoring systems. So my question is, if I had a car and I calculate my car's emissions by using IPCC emission factors, and also if I had a plug-in device, monitoring device to my car, and read a number from it, what would the numbers they are maybe close or not? This is first question. And the second question, standards says that reporter should make an uncertainty analysis for the calculation. So when we look at the IPCC guidelines, we sometimes cannot find the uncertainty of the emission factor or net calorific value, for example. So there will be a work about uncertainties of the emission factors.
But
For example, for the methane emission factors from mobile combustion, what is the number, uncertainty number? Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for your question. Firstly, you say IPCC emission factor, but what is provided by the IPCC guidelines is sort of default data, default emission factor. That is sort of a last resort option. The best way for countries to produce inventories is to use country-specific or region-specific or plant-specific emissions, and you have to find it. But only when you cannot find any data, then the default data in IPCC guidelines can be used. So in that sense, there will be a lot of uncertainty in using IPCC default emission factors. And taking it into account, we recommend the continuous improvement of inventory by focusing on so-called key categories in your inventory, and that can be identified through the procedures provided in the IPCC guidelines. And your last question about methane uncertainty in methane.
Yeah. For example, mobile combustion emission factor of methane. I used my report this emission factor, and standard says that what is the uncertainty of the emission factor. And when I looked at IPCC guidelines, maybe I cannot find the uncertainty of the emission factor.
I think it's provided.
Maybe for methane it can be, I accept, but all emission factors, I think there are not all uncertainties.
As a rule, each and every parameter provided, data provided as an emission, as an associated uncertainty, which does not include a bias, is expected to be just random errors. Anyhow, send us an email if you have a really, if you find something that is missing, send us an email, we will answer.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, now we need to close because there is another event approaching and we cannot take the time. Thank you.